Hi, this is Jim Derick, and I'm outside here on a beautiful day at the Providence Zen Center here in Cumberland, Rhode Island. I'm here to meet Kwan Haeng Sunim to talk more about the practice of Buddhism here at the center and learn more about this beautiful facility.
So our style of Buddhism is Korean Zen. And what is Korean Zen? Korean Zen is understanding yourself and helping others. And so, and we do that through meditation, practicing. The Buddha was born 2,500 years ago. Mm-hmm. And when he was born, his father had asked some soothsayers, people who can read the future. They said, what kind of son am I going to have? And the soothsayer said, you're either going to have a great king as a son, or you're going to have a great spiritual leader. The father said, I want a king. And so what he did is he made these castle walls and put the Buddha inside, and he was brought up with all the luxuries, all the things that a prince could have. So he was taken very well care of. And then when he was in his 20s, he wandered outside, he got outside the walls in India, and he saw a body, a dead person, on the river. You know, they put him on the river. And they saw an old person, he saw a sick person, and he saw an ascetic, a practicing person. Even 2,500 years ago, this yoga was alive and well in India. And so when he saw those four things, it hit his mind. And he said that even as king, there's nothing I can do about old age, sickness, and death. And so he left the castle and went around doing different practices, and finally he wound up under the Bodhi tree, what we call a Bodhi tree, and he sat there, and he said he was going to sit there until he got enlightened. But he went 6 years, so this is 6 years of traveling, doing all kinds of practices, visiting all the yogis and stuff like that. But finally he wasn't satisfied, so he went and he sat under a Bodhi tree, and as he sat there, he looked up at the star, and his mind opened up. Okay, and then from there he began to teach. And so our practice is also that style, in that we look inside, understand ourselves, and from there we teach, which is what how the Buddha did. Mm-hmm. And so, so it's important to understand that the Buddha wasn't talking about how great his practice was or how great his enlightenment, but what he did is he showed people technique to perceive reality directly themselves. Wow. Not as their family sees it, or the friends see it, or as the government sees it, to see things directly themselves. Okay, so he showed them technique. So you believe everybody has a spiritual nature, right?
Yes.
All human beings,
yes.
Right? Okay, so all ethnicities, all nationalities somehow explore that spiritual nature. Yes. Okay, so although I'm saying that the Buddha looked inside and he understood himself and he understood the universe, I am simply telling you a way of exploring this spiritual side. There are many ways out there to explore the Christianity, Muslim, Hinduism, Taoism, all these different ways of practicing. But also not only that, there's the practice of the Indian, the Native American Indians, the Native Africans, yes. the shaman, and all of these people. To say that they're not hooked up with the spiritual self is not correct.
Right, right.
But what we say is that it isn't what's, it's not which one is better. The question is, which one works for me? Mm-hmm. That's the only question. We don't go around and say that Zen is it, that if you're not doing Zen, then you're having a problem. That's not the thing. The thing is that we're on this planet, right? And there's no one thing that everybody's going to do. I don't care how you look at it. Right. Okay, so find the thing that works for you. And if it works for you, then show it to other people.
Can I ask you a question about
Sure.
Buddha?
Yes.
So, was there a particular
type of meditation or something like that?
Yeah. Was there a specific path that, like you just shattered some perceptions that I had, which were that Buddha had that there's a very specific and dogmatic way of looking at things, and you shattered that.
Zen is very undogmatic.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a basic form, and it's a fundamental form. There's no, Zen has no philosophy, no doctrine, and it's not a religion. Okay,
wow,
and that's a very kind of important point. So a lot of people come here and practice, and they come here and practice from other religions because it's about looking inside and becoming clear, understanding yourself, and then working from there. And if you are clear and you understand yourself as a Christian, as a Muslim, as whatever, then you can only do your practice that much better. All right, so we're not telling you to come here and do our practice and leave yours behind. We would never say that. In fact, most of the people that come here and listen to the Dharma talks, they're from other groups and other religious groups. Yeah.
Fascinating. I did 5 minutes in, and everything I thought I knew is out the window.
So then, what is this spiritual self that we talk about?
Yeah.
Now, all of us, all of us, all the practices have different ways of pointing at them. Okay, our way of pointing at it is we call it don't know mind. So this before mind, before you think, that's what we're calling this spiritual self, universal self, self nature, whatever, God, mind, soul, Atman, whatever you want to call that, you can, but that's not it. That just points to it.
That's, pardon me?
It just points to it. Okay, that's not it. And I believe that's one of the reasons why in a lot of religions you can't actually say the deity's name, because as soon as you say it, you make it small. Okay? So then what is this before thinking mind? So I can try to point it out to you by doing this. Because when I do this, your mind don't say bind, it don't say pong, it don't say hit. Did your mind say any of those things?
No.
And do you know why?
No.
Because you heard that before you think.
Yes.
Isn't that? You have to, everything. So this is the question. See if you can follow this question. When I do this, it's not your intellectual mind, it's not your conceptual mind, it's not your thinking mind that hears that. So my question, what hears that?
What hears that?
I'm asking you.
I'm sitting with that for a second.
So it's not your thinking. Once your thinking kicks in, you're lost. Forget about it.
Okay.
So when you step out in front of the street and a car is coming and you step back, did your mind say, oh, a car is coming, you should step back? Did it say that? No, you just step back.
Yeah.
So then there's I saw this thing on a video where there was this interview, a baseball player being interviewed by this woman, right, reporter, and somebody hit the ball from way outfield, and he's talking to her, and his hand goes up and he catches the ball. There was no thinking about nothing. So then what is it that did that?
Instinct.
Okay, so
I'm not close, am I?
Well, once you see, the thing is that once you name it like that, you kill it.
So it's a rhetorical question.
No, it's a question that you look at.
Okay.
So a way that we understand, the way that what the Buddha did when he was under the Bodhi tree, he was looking in this inside to understand himself. He didn't go to a library. He didn't go to school to learn what was going on. He looked inside and had a spiritual connection, had that connection with himself. So this is what we do, is we give you the tools so that you can look inside and become clear. And so, but I gotta then tell you, so some of the practical ways that you can do this. Right now I'm kind of with the kind of philosophical side. But understand this, that when I do this, the thing that you heard that, once you start saying, oh, that was my thinking, and that you lost it. Okay, once you say, so in Nike, they say, only do it, right?
Just do it, yep.
Just do it. Now, I met my teacher in 1986. He was saying that then, okay? Just do it. And that's what that baseball player did when his hand went up. He just did it. When there's an ice skater on, like there's a woman that was doing ice skating in 2010. She was a Korean woman, and she won the gold medal. When she came off the ice, tears came down her face. But you got to understand that when she's on the ice, she's just doing it. She can't be, oh, today I'm going to win that gold medal. She can't do that. That once you do that, then you fall on the ice slide. But she could only, her inside and the outside became one. So what is the meaning of the inside and the outside become one? The meaning of that is that she had no idea of I. That's very important. This idea of I is something that we just make inside. It doesn't actually exist outside of your noggin.
So ego.
I didn't hear the word ego in Korea when they say that. They call it like the small self and all of those. But like I said, these things have all different kinds of names. So once you learn how to practice, you attain this before thinking mind, what we call this don't know mind, right? Once you attain that, you can go to any religion or any practice, spiritual practice, and find just where they hit it. If you like it, stay there. Knock yourself out. We don't. There's no problem. That's no problem. It's much better to have a spiritual person than some of the other stuff that's going around, right? So, but also in that process, you can help yourself to understand yourself and work through some stuff. It's kind of like I think is what you're looking at.
I had a son who was suffering from mental health issues and was also challenged with addiction. And I have 2 other boys. And so I had been struggling with him for years, and to no avail. I thought I could fix him. You know, I got myself very sick because I was trying to fix him. I was blaming myself. I was very focused on fixing him. In our community, there were 4 or 5 opioid-related deaths that year in 2015, and there were no local resources. So I met some people in town who said, look, we need to do something locally. We need to provide people avenues to treatment here locally, reduce the barriers to treatment. And how can we do that? So we brought together a bunch of stakeholders, police, fire, spiritual leaders, people in recovery, all sorts of hospital people. Got them all together in a room and said, let's work on this together. And out of that came this nonprofit, which we formed called SAFE. So it was kind of humble beginnings, to say the least. We started out, there were 2 of us. At the beginning, we were sort of a crisis unit. We were working with police departments, helping people get beds in treatment centers and that type of thing. And again, I had no experience other than being a dad. I had lived experience, which, as I found out, was kind of my PhD in this work. So that was 10 years ago. You know, we grew, we kept growing, we kept morphing. We eventually were able to hire staff. We have an executive director. And in 2022, unfortunately, my son passed from a fentanyl overdose. Oh. So that was...
sorry to hear.
Thank you. That was a major transformative sort of, obviously, and I had a decision to make, you know, and fortunately I had a lot of support around me that had kind of built around me as we were building this thing. And a lot of people suggested that maybe, you know, gee, maybe this is going to be too much for you and this and that. It's been exactly the opposite. I've just dug in harder. I love, I'm in recovery myself. I love the 12-step program that I'm a part of, that most people are familiar with. It has, I don't know quite how to capture it, but it's probably been the biggest blessing of my life. It's the people I'm with, the nature of the work, that I can sit and have this conversation, and that I can find another outlet for people to including myself, to achieve some healing and some peace among very, very chaotic circumstances. So we have 3 divisions. We have a prevention division, which is adolescent wellness. We have a collaborative care division, which is a fancy way of saying we'll come with you, wrap around you while you're pursuing your recovery, and we will find the services you need: food security, housing security, spiritual security, you know, career security, certainly therapy and exposure to recovery and self-help programs for the long run. And then I work with families. So we know that when there's one person in the family that's suffering, the whole unit suffers, and I would argue the community suffers as well. And so we wrap around that family to provide them services and support while their loved one is hopefully getting into their own recovery, or not, like with me. And it works. And here's the key. Everything we do is free of charge, 100%, no insurance required, and there's no waiting period, which is completely counter to our culture of care here in Western care. So I'm really proud of that. We're in about 46 communities and growing. We have some clients that are out of state. We don't have any borders. We will take all comers. Everybody is treated equally in our space. And as I said, there is no charge.
Right.
And
how do you support that?
So we support that through state, primarily some state grants, some federal funding, but mostly through the generous donors, business communities, and others that support us.
Sure.
So we've grown. We started out with 2 of us. We're now at about 18 staff people.
Right.
And so it's just been a real labor of love. And I personally have just found that the key to my growth is not to avoid pain, but it's actually to work with the pain that I have from within. So a lot of what you're talking about really resonates with me personally, getting to know yourself. It's been, I never expected at 64 years old to be so excited about growing as you know, and it's very exciting.
Right now, I'm very happy for you and what you're doing. I have addiction in my family, and
sorry for that.
And my sister passed, in fact.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And my brother, he was in the Air Force, and then he retired, and because he entered the Air Force quite young and became a male nurse, and so he was a male nurse and he was doing very well. But then he also passed with psoriasis of the liver.
I'm so sorry. Yeah. So you know the pain firsthand.
Yeah, we can. It's throughout the community. So yeah, when I see somebody like you, I'm energized because there's got to be some answers that we can give people that they can use and help themselves.
Well, I also believe you've just been talking about that. I mean, you've just in the, you know, and I know you know that there's no shortcut to this, is there?
I don't know, not at all.
There is not a shortcut.
Yeah, there's no shortcut.
It's a process.
Yeah.
And what I mean by it is, you know, we used to think that addiction and mental health existed independently, but they don't. Mental health and addiction, it's all one.
Sure.
I may be mentally ill and I may not be an addict because I didn't perceive that substance as being my solution. All the substances is just a perceived solution, right, to numbing the pain. So for me, you know, all of the just say no and stay away from drugs and all of those typical practices are missing the mark. I think that exposing our youth to things like this, or you know, good healthy mindfulness, good healthy, you know, good options for mental health care, ways of neutralizing judgment, because so much of what they struggle with is self-imposed judgment or judgment from others.
But also you got to give them technique. So like I said, when you're sitting down and you're angry and upset, maybe sitting down is not the thing to do. So going running. But you got to have an insight into your mind to understand that your mind is like that, but that's not who you are, so you got to take care of it. So when you're huffing and puffing, you can't hold on to that anger like that. When you put a kid out there and he runs around like that, and he gets this moment where he's not angry like that, hopefully he feels that, or he understands that, and as his life goes on, he tries to get back to that place where he wasn't like that. And so that's why you have a lot of people going into sports and stuff like that.
Yes.
Because when you're in sports, you can't hold on to that anger. But then sometimes people say, oh, that's a very angry person. He does a lot of sports. Yeah, that's because when he comes off the field, he picked up his anger and runs with it.
It hangs on to it like the ball he was holding.
So that's one of the points, that if you begin to understand how your emotions work and stuff like that, you don't have to do a spiritual practice to be able to use technique.
It's so interesting. I just made a connection, if you'll permit me, because I want to see if this resonates. So when my son died, I had met some people that actually, one of them became my sponsor in a 12-step program, and the family had lost their son years earlier, and I just didn't know they were going to share this experience. And they sat on each side of me, and I remember Katie turning to me, taking my hands, turning to me and saying, you now have a choice. This is 24 hours after he died. You are either going to turn towards bitterness and anger and wrap yourself in that. Those are the words she said. Or you're going to turn towards love. Your fists are either going to go like this or like this. And she said, but understand the choice is yours. And she wasn't telling me what to do. there is a pull for people like me to go towards the anger. So what does the anger look like? Well, it usually looks like this.
Right.
It's 3 fingers pointing towards me. Ironically, you forget about that when you're angry. And I point them at you. I say, you know what? That hospital, that police officer, that treatment center didn't do their job, and they're the ones that killed my son. In fact, I know how my son obtained the drugs the night that he died, and I know the individual that gave them to him. So I was at a real crossroads, right? Am I going to blame this individual, and am I going to look for retribution and revenge? And by the way, who wouldn't support that, right? I'd be front page of the Globe. Angry father kills young man who provided fentanyl to his son, and everybody would applaud me. But what I wrestled with, and I'd be lying if I didn't tell you how it took me a little time to sit with it and process it, was I realized that was a lie. Addiction killed my son. Mental illness killed my son. And killed him, meaning he was sick. And so let's go to the truth, and let's go towards love and more exploration, and let's not get angry and wall myself off to the world. Does that make sense?
Yes, of course.
And it took a couple of years of sitting with some really kind and caring people who never told me what to do, but gave me a process.
Sure.
A process by which I could, and some mentorship. I could see examples. You know, I saw this woman and her husband who were living extraordinary lives of service. The 12th step in AA is to be of service. That's your whole purpose. And they were living lives of service. And I thought, do I want to go in that direction, or do I want to have my fist in the air for the rest of my life?
Sure. So that anger only begets anger, and love, when love comes up against anger, love overcomes. So that's a quite important thing to understand, that the military option will never work. The fighting, killing, murder, mayhem, it's not going to work. It's only going to beget more fighting, murder, and anger. Okay, and so if you can understand that point, and even see that in the larger world, but you also see it's in yourself, then you could help others in that way.
Well, you talk powerfully about picking up that anger, and I thought about myself, and I know people, and I've been this way sometimes, that I wouldn't know what to do without my anger. I've identified. Pardon me?
It's your crutch. Yeah.
Yes, it becomes so close. It becomes so entangled in me that the day that I drop the sword, I feel very disoriented.
I also had my a thing with anger, so that was one of the reasons why I became a monk, was that I couldn't handle my anger, and so I didn't know what I was going to do. I thought that I was probably going to become homeless, because I walk in the store, the person across the counter, I'd get angry at that person. I didn't even know that person.
Wow.
And so I just dropped everything and went to Korea and started practicing. And that practice meant looking inside. And when I looked inside, I began to understand something about anger, is that person who at the time, because I was sitting in a group that the people on both sides of me really annoyed the hell out of me. And so, but when I looked inside, I began to understand that actually they didn't make me angry, but they did something, and I decided to be angry. And then I got hold of that point, and I don't have that issue with anger. So that this kind of anger that you have all day long,
right?
That all day long, that actually has to be learned. Do you know that? You have to learn
Makes
that.
sense.
You can't, it doesn't just happen. I had a friend, so I've been practicing for some years. I went back and I saw my friend, we were hanging out. They were younger than me, these guys were younger than me. And my friend was angry all day over something. He mentioned it in the morning, he mentioned it in the afternoon, and the next day I saw him, he was still angry about the same thing. And then I left him, and later on, and then all of a sudden, boom, it occurred to me that they were younger than me, and I actually showed them how to be angry like that.
Oh my gosh, you were their teacher.
Inadvertently, I should, because that's how I was back then. And now, in order for me to be like that, I really have to study it. I have to put my mind to it, but I can't hold the anger that way anymore. I can't. It's not possible unless I begin to sit down and study.
So you can't unfeel what you felt. You can't unknow what you know now. Or you can't. Let me say, without a lot of effort.
Without a lot of effort, right?
That makes sense.
And what's the key to that? The key to that is dwelling on it. That's the important point here. Is what I'm trying to say, that as a technique, if you're looking at your mind, one of the secret things about it is dwelling on your anything. If you dwell on it, it's going to get bigger and bigger to the point where it'll carry you away where you don't even care about what happens to your body. So that's a little bit about it, but I guess I want to show you about how to actually practice it. So one of the things, you have your right hand like this, and you put your left hand, and these two fingers touch, and these fingers here go about 2 fingers below your belly button.
Okay.
Yeah, and so you want to relax your shoulders, your arms, like that. Okay. And so you look about 45 degrees in front of you. Your attention is on your belly. Okay. And so you look softly at the floor in front of you. And one of the things with our practice is that the eyes are always open. And they're always open because you always want to be able to come back to this moment and see things as they are. The brown floor, the blue cushion, my gray clothes, and my peripheral, you want to see also those things. So the eyes are always open. We don't close them because, one, we go to sleep, and two, your mind really wanders, you know? So looking softly in front of you, attention on your belly, your internal organs are all lined up, so this is actually quite healthy. So with your attention on your belly, you breathe in, stomach rises, and you breathe out, stomach falls. But you're not pushing your stomach out, and you're not pulling it in. You just relax, watching it as it rises when you breathe in. And when you breathe out, it falls a little. And you breathe in, stomach rises a little. And breathe out, it falls. And you breathe in. And when you breathe in, you say to yourself, clear mind, clear mind, clear mind, 3 times. And when you breathe out, you say, don't know. And then breathe, and then clear mind, clear mind, clear mind, breathing in. And then breathe out, don't know. And then again, clear mind, clear mind, clear mind, breathing in. And don't know. Breathing out. Okay, so the thing, so if you do this every day for 20 minutes, let's say you do it every day for 20 minutes, everything's going to appear in your mind. Good thoughts, bad thoughts, what you want, what you don't want, all the things that appear in your mind. Good TV, nice food, all of these things that appear in your mind. This is one of the most important things you have to hear about this, is that whatever enters your mind, you don't hold on to it and you don't push it away. If you don't hold on to it and you don't push it away, whatever appears has less of a hold on you. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense.
Yeah. So when you're sitting, and I like chocolate ice cream. So there's chocolate ice cream down in the fridge. Okay, so I'm sitting there, and chocolate ice cream appears in my mind. And so then when that appears in my mind, I come back to what I'm doing, which is breathe in, clear mind, breathe out, don't know. Breathe in, clear mind, breathe out, don't know. But then, of course, my mind jumps onto the ice cream. I think about how big the bowl is going to be, how many scoops I'm going to have. And then once again, I come back to what I'm doing, which is breathe in, clear mind, and then breathe out, don't know.
What I don't hear is judgment.
No
You're
judgment.
not, no judgment. It's neutral thoughts. Just
Yeah. So I know that so this is one of the things that is important, that different practices have different ways of doing this. The Theravada folks, they have a way of doing this. They have, I'm not going to get into how they do it, but they do it a different way. The Japanese Zen folks, they have a way of doing it. The Korean folks have it. And within even the Korean style, they have different forms of the practice. So yes, there are some practices I understand where they look at it or they might think about it, but we don't do any of that. It's very important in our practice that you don't. What you do is you simply come back to this moment. You don't get caught up in where that came from, why that is, and any of that stuff, because then you only get more attached to it. The Buddha said the reason why people suffer is because they're attached to I. And what is your I? Your likes, your dislikes, and this and that, okay? But I can also tell you something else, that almost all your experience that you have in your life, somehow you have to digest that, those experiences. And traumatic experiences and stuff, so forth and so on, of people have gone through the things that you are speaking of, okay? That somehow needs to be digested. Your thinking mind don't digest anything. It holds on to everything, pushes the bad things to the back, and brings the good things to the front. But we all know that the bad things don't stay back there, right? And so in order to actually digest that, we got to get away, we got to let go. As the Buddha, become unattached or let go. And letting go for one moment is becoming unattached to that for that one moment. If you can do that, then you can let that experience fall. And it's not, you're always going to remember it, it's always going to be there, but you're not holding on to it. So
as a layperson, what I think I heard you say, and see if I've got this right,
sure,
is, I've been taught my whole life that the way to solve a problem, right? First of all, you got judgment right there, problem, that's a problem.
Right.
But is to work harder, to hang on to something, to work harder and harder and harder on it.
And above all, think about it, get knowledge.
Think about it, grind through it.
Yeah.
You're saying the exact opposite.
Yes.
But you're not saying that to the exclusion of solving a problem.
No, it's a different way.
You're saying that's actually the way.
Yeah,
right?
This is a different way. This is what I'm showing. This
That makes
is a
sense.
way that we offer. So then we have, we talked about the Sunday program, and that happens at, it starts at 9 o'clock with the orientation, and then you have, it goes for about 35 minutes, and then other people come in on Sunday. We had quite a few people here this past Sunday, and they sit 2 rounds of sitting, 25 minutes each, and then after that there's a Dharma talk. And so that happens Sunday at 9. It goes to about 12. And at the end of that, we have snacks. Wednesday is the other kind of big regular program day where we offer a meal at 5:30. And then at 6:15, we have orientation. And then in the evening, we have some chanting. The chanting we don't do on Sunday, but we have chanting. And once a month, we have a 1-day sitting or a 2-day sitting.
And a sitting is meditation.
Sitting, yeah, it's meditation.
Okay,
right.
For those of us who don't know. I'm curious, does a member, in other words, if I came in and I was sitting and practicing on a regular basis, would I have a mentor? Would somebody?
Okay. Yeah. So we have teachers. I'm a teacher here.
Okay.
And the Zen centers have teachers, and for sure there are. We have a thing called Kwan interviews, where you go in and have an interview with the teacher, and the teacher gives you a kind of question that can only be answered with the intuitive mind. You can't answer it with your intellectual mind. So then what it does is you begin to answer some of your life's problems with your intuitive mind as opposed to your intellectual mind, to see things clearly. And so that's what that helps that doing. But we also have chanting. So I mentioned that you come in and you have chanting. So I've been in Korea, and I saw the power of chanting. It actually has quite a bit of power. The West don't understand the power that chanting has and how it.
What is that power? What is a chant? What is the purpose?
The chanting is just another technique to bring yourself back into the moment. So when we chant, what we do is we hear our voice, like I hear my voice, and that's the primary point. And then we hear the other voices, that's like truth. And then how does truth function? How does truth function? You harmonize. How can I help? You harmonize with the group. You don't go off doing your own kind of chant.
Sure, right.
Oh, my voice is really nice. But it's like then you harmonize with the group. So the understanding yourself is first you get to this primary point, which is don't know, and then you come into the Dharma room. Everybody sitting in the Dharma is returning to this not knowing mind. And then when you hold that for a length of time, it changes to clear mind. The floor is brown, my clothes are gray, and then one more step is necessary. Do you know what that one more step would be? Please, I don't. How can I help? How do you use this clear mind? You just see how much money you can make on in the stock market? How many friends you can get on Facebook?
Right.
What do you do with that clear mind?
Thank you, Sunim, so much for showing me around. This has been wonderful, and I
Okay,
have a
good,
feeling
great.
I'm going to get to see more of you.
I hope so.